Welcome to all of you. This is Divya Thampi. I am an emotional wellness and a mid career coach. Today, we're going to be talking about how to find your strengths. We will figure out what strengths are, how they help you to become more successful in your career and live a better life. We'll talk about what is the difference between strengths and talents. We'll talk about how knowing your strengths can really change the way you go about succeeding at work. Okay, but not only that, we'll talk about how you can put your strengths to action, the different ways in which you can figure out your strengths. Okay. Uh, so if you are here, do come along and say hello. I'd love to hear from you. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as on LinkedIn. I'm just, yes, so we are live. Fantastic, fantastic. I'm going to jump right into it. And as you guys come along, I'm going to say hello as well. Okay. Let's talk about, let me give you this story. Once I had been to the US and I was there for about a month, and I was staying with my sister who was put up in US for for a few years. And on one of the weekends, we went to a family friend's place, and there were two children. They had two children. One was a young boy who was probably about 9, 10 years old, and they had an elder son who was about 14 years old, 14 or 15 years old. Now the younger one was this really very active guy. He was good at studies, scored a lot of high marks at school. He was the teacher's favorite. He did very well at sports. He was there in all the school teams, just the kind of the star that everybody likes to have. And the older son was somebody that the parents were a little concerned about. I mean, he was absolutely fine. He was very healthy. He had a great mind. Yet, the concern that the parents had was that he was not particularly great at studies. He wasn't exactly very extroverted. He didn't make friends very easily, and they were quite concerned as to how he was going to do in life and what he was going to do with his career, etc. Now, as the day unveiled itself, we kind of had a few games and we had a good time in the backyard. And after that, we all went inside the house and we were all watching a movie. And as we were watching the movie, so there were like three families. We were all sitting and watching the movie, and there was this young child who was about 8, 9 years old, or yeah, 9 to 10 years old. He got up, he went into the kitchen, he made himself a large bowl of popcorn, and he came back and he sat with all of us and he started chomping away at the popcorn. So obviously his parents were a little embarrassed, and they turned to him and said, come on, share it with everybody. And he said, no, I made this myself and I'm going to have it. I mean, like a lot of young kids do, right? By now, the parents were starting to look a little red faced, and the older brother was also very embarrassed on behalf of the younger brother. So he tried to persuade his younger brother to share the popcorn with other people, but he wasn't willing to do so. So the older brother got up, went into the kitchen, he made another two bowls of popcorn, and all this, he was actually missing out on the movie while he was doing all of this because nobody paused the movie. And nobody really knew what he was going into the kitchen for. So he went into the kitchen, he prepared two bowls of large bowls of popcorn, came back and gave it to all the people who were sitting there and sat down to watch the movie. Now, personally, I found this very touching, and I was it was quite heartwarming to see the level of empathy and care that the older child showed, you know. And his parents had only one yardstick, which is the case with most of us. And it's not their fault, but most of us tend to have a single yardstick of measuring how well a person is doing, and we have a very narrow way of looking at what strengths are and what weaknesses are. And unfortunately, I think it is the academic performance that most parents end up giving value to. I think it is changing now. So the point I was trying to make here is that each individual has their unique strengths. The strengths that people form are a result of the personality traits that they have, the kind of environments that they have grown up in, the kind of interests that they have. So there are many things that come together to form somebody's strengths. Okay. Now, what does happen is that most people are not truly aware of what their strengths are. There are some things that come naturally to them. They do it once in a while. They feel good while they're doing it. They don't, but because they're not aware of it, they don't make any extra effort to use it again and again, right? And as a result of which, they may end up pursuing a career where they don't have an opportunity to use their strengths often. And but for those people who are able to identify their strengths and leverage those strengths, not only are they able to perform really well, whether it is at work, whether it is in relationships, or whether it is in life in general, but they also enjoy the things that they do because they get to put their strengths to use. Okay, and so their level of success is higher, the level of satisfaction is higher, they're able to do more meaningful work, and they feel, obviously, when they're able to do all of these things, the level of confidence that they experience is also much higher. Okay, so people, if you are here, I'd like to hear from you. Are you aware of your own strengths? Okay, tell me a yes or no, and you can also tell me a maybe. Okay, so in the chat box, let me know a yes, a no, or a maybe. Okay, do you know your strengths? I'd love to hear from you. So, waiting to see. Okay, so for those of you who joined in a little later, we're talking about how to find your strengths. That's the topic for today. Hey, Sandeep, good to see you. Good evening. Great. And while I'm at it, I want to tell you that I'm doing a workshop in Jan. Okay, so I thought we should start the new year off on a great note. I'm going to be doing a boot camp. It's like a 5-day boot camp where we'll be spending a 5 to 7 day boot camp. I'm yet to decide the exact details of this workshop. And it's called the Career Clarity Boot Camp. And I'm super excited about it. In case you are somebody who is interested in knowing what this is all about, I'm going to share a link. Okay, and if you're interested in this, just fill up this form. It's a very short form. You have to fill up your name and email, etc. And as soon as the details are ready, I will make sure that it reaches you. Okay, so you get to know what it is, and if you're interested, you can join in. Okay, so I will be announcing it very soon. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Fantastic, Sandeep. May I request you to please fill it in? Okay, looks like. Okay, I'm going to be sharing this on the comments of the LinkedIn very soon. Okay, for some reason I'm not able to share this. This comment is not going through on LinkedIn. Okay, but I will be sharing it soon. But thank you so much for your interest, Sandeep. Okay, now let me jump right into talking about the difference between strengths and talents. Okay, now most of us, actually what we have is talents. Okay, which means that we have natural tendencies towards certain things. Certain things come a little easy to us. The word talents are used very loosely and in a very narrow way in most of our language. For example, we talk about sports people who are very talented, musicians who are very talented. In fact, when you see people who do really well in their areas of work or any aspect of life, chances are that they have turned their talents into strengths. So, in fact, it is quite possible that you may have a talent, something that you have a natural tendency for, but it has not been developed into a strength. Okay, so something becomes a strength when you put effort into it, when you practice it, when you use it consciously and deliberately. Okay, so in fact, even when somebody has a talent, they may not be able to use it very well unless they have identified it and tried to leverage it. And the moment we leverage it, our lives become very different. The quality of our life becomes very different. Apparently, only 17% of people consciously use their strengths at work. Okay, and imagine if rest of the 83% of the people also started using their strengths, how quality of life would be different for everybody under the sun, right? And how we would be able to contribute so much more to each other's lives. Now, let's talk about what are the different ways in which you can. So let me give you some examples of what do I mean when I say strengths. Okay, so now I gave you this example of this particular kid who's 14 years old, and he had this ability to empathize. He was able to See, and care. So empathy, compassion was his strength. And if you are thinking that, well, in a career, in a workplace, it's not particularly a very useful skill, we are absolutely wrong about that, because one of the very key factors when it comes to success in the workplace is your relationship with other people. We cannot work as an island, we cannot work as a single person. No matter how talented we are, no matter how intelligent we are, we're not going to be able to do well at work. Even if you are a single person business, you have to interact and collaborate with people. So empathy is such a crucial skill. Okay. Now another person may have the skill of clarity, clarity of thought, which means that they are able to, when they are presented with a lot of data, they are able to pull up the most relevant facts and bring out clarity out of so much of data. Another person may be very good at articulation. So when we say, he or she is very good at communication, we may be like being very generic sometimes. It can mean different things for different people, right? For somebody, when they say that my strength is communication, it would be about how they are able to articulate their thoughts and ideas very, very clearly. For somebody else, it may be about how they are very good listeners and are able to pick up the most important ideas in what is being said. Okay, for somebody else, it may be their sensitivity to the feelings of the people who are talking, and being able to gauge the mood of the room before talking, right? Another strength may be creativity. Recently I was speaking to somebody, and so even sometimes even I can look at narrowly at certain strengths, and when I think about creativity, sometimes the idea that comes to my mind is, they are good with things and creating and craft, etc. But what is very interesting to me was this person's strength was not only that they enjoyed creating things and beautiful things, but they also enjoyed inspiring other people to create things and think creatively, right? So these are the different, there's a whole variety of strengths that people can have. I'm just giving you some examples. Somebody may be very good at turning ideas into plans, actionable plans. Okay, or somebody else may be very good at ideating, somebody else may be very good at organizing. Okay, or somebody else may be very good at analyzing. So strengths can be very, very different, and each of us actually bring a certain what do you call it, like a certain flavor to that particular. So even if I'm saying that there are two people who have planning as a strength, but each of them bring their own individuality into how that strength plays out when they start using it, right? So all of us have our unique strengths. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Okay, fabulous. So great. People, if you are enjoying this, do type BIO in the chat box, which means bring it on, so that I can continue with the session. So I know that you are with me and you want me to continue with this. Yeah. So BIO, go on. And I'm going to next talk straight away into what are some of the ways in which you can find out your strengths. So we're going to continue for the next 5 minutes. And this is probably the heart of what I'm going to talk about today. Thank you so much, Sandeep. So how do you find out your strengths? Okay, there are 3 different ways in which I'm going to tell you about. The first one is awareness. So you have to develop this awareness where you start really paying attention to what are some of the things that come easily to you. Hey Connie, good to see you. Okay, what are some of the things that come easily to you? What are some of the things that people come to you for? Okay, so for example, if people come to you because you're good at analyzing information, and you see that a lot of people come to you whenever they have to analyze some data, or people come to you when they have to take decision because you are pretty good at providing them with this safe space. Okay, or if somebody wants to come up with creative ideas and they come to you, chances are that that is one of your strengths. So when you start paying attention to what are the things that people come to you for, what are some of the things that come easily to you, you may also want to maintain a journal where you start making a note of the things that you enjoyed doing and were able to do easily. Okay, so it's a combination of enjoying and being able to do things easily, right? Along with that, what do you want to do? So this is kind of an internal awareness. Then there is an external awareness, which means that you ask for feedback from people who know you pretty well. So it could be colleagues who have been working with you for some time. It could be your boss. It could be friends who have been close to you. And you'll be really very surprised. Sometimes they tell you things which are so obvious, and yet you haven't thought of it as a strength for yourself. Okay, so friends, family, but be very clear in the way you ask that question, and people will be able to tell you. Another way, there are some assessments, many of you may know about it, but two of the assessments that I'd like to recommend to you. There is something called Strengths Finder 2.0, which is by Gallup. Tom Rath is the author. There is a book which is called Strengths Finder 2.0. If you were to buy that book, it comes with a code. You can also go online and look for Strengths Finder 2.0. What they have is a list of 34 strengths that people can have. And when you give that assessment, it's a paid assessment. It gives you a very customized list of your top 5 strengths. Okay, and it gives you some description, and you can work with that. Another one is the VIA Institute on Character. So it's viacharacter.org. If you go to this website, there is a free assessment. So now this is a list of, I think, approximately about 24 or 26 character strengths, which have been put together by Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman is a highly celebrated psychologist, and he has done a whole lot of research and come up with what makes people happy. So he's done this research. So he had earlier done some research on learned helplessness and what leads people to go into depression. And if you have ever studied psychology, you would have heard of Martin Seligman. And then he went on to find out what is it that makes people happy and fulfilled and live a meaningful life. And he is the one who's responsible for coming up with this assessment. You can go to viacharacter.org, character strengths. That's a free assessment available to you, and you will be able to get your top 5 value-based strengths. Okay, so these are the 3 ways in which you will be able to gauge your strengths. But if you were to join for the Career Clarity Bootcamp, we will be going a little deeper into this from a practical perspective. Praveen, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Great. For those of you who joined in a little later, I'm going to share this link once again. So we have this Career Clarity Bootcamp, which is coming up in the first half of January. I'll be sharing the details of this to all those of you who fill up this Google form as soon as the details have been finalized. So with that, we have come to the end of today's session. This is Divya Tampi signing off, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 9:15. Till then, signing off for now. Have a great evening.